Blake Snell, it's not like he was doing particularly well with the Giants. He had an ERA up around 13 or so, but he is injured. He goes on the injured list with a left adductor strain, and what looked like a strength for the Giants, they're starting pitching suddenly with Snell out of the mix. Maybe not so much.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, been hosting this show for over 5 years. This is the first time hosting in a closet. Yes, for those of you watching on YouTube, I'm in a closet. I will explain later. And I'm a lifelong Giants fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. So check us out there. Check us out in a closet if you have not already. And please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you're following the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side. It's actually a very large one. And it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. And coming up on today's show, live from this closet, we are going to be discussing the latest with the Giants. And for me, the most important thing that's going on right now is that Blake Snell is injured. And like I said in the open, they even, Snell wasn't pitching well, right? And so it's not like, oh my gosh, he was dominating and then they lose him like Logan Webb has been dominating, which we'll get to as well. But, obviously the potential was there every time Blake Snell went out there to find his form, and he won the Cy Young Award last year. He's won 2 Cy Young Awards. So to lose Snell to this left adductor strain is a significant deal. And we're going to get some quotes here. Bob Melvin, manager, said that it cropped up during his most recent bullpen session, and it's being described as a moderate strain. According to Susan Slusser, this is speculation perhaps, or Bob Melvin said it, but that he could miss more than the 15-day minimum. When pitchers go on the injured list, it's a 15-day IL. Position players, it's 10. But Snell said that he had the same issue in 2021 and missed a month. And then he dealt with it again in 2022 and missed 3 weeks. And then he said this, quote, "I think I'm stronger now, so I don't think it's as bad as they say," which is like, ugh, how bad do they say that it is? So then he goes, "I'm a lot more confident than I was in 21 and 22. I feel better about this one. I caught it early." And so then Susan Slusser says the team is evaluating options while Snell is out. Top minor league starter Mason Black has a 1.53 ERA in 4 starts in AAA Sacramento with 20 strikeouts and 4 walks, but he's not on the 40-man. I did not realize that he had been doing so well, so we will definitely check on Mason Black here in a second. And Melvin said he could definitely be one of the options, but I'm not sure where we're going with that. And so what they did, he was supposed to start yesterday, and instead, they went with Sean Jelly, and they gave up a bunch of runs. Jelly didn't pitch great, and they lost the game. They also didn't score a bunch, but nonetheless, I mean, you're losing the reigning Cy Young Award winner. And Snell said, I mean, as Susan Slusser points out, Snell was 0-3 with an 11.37 ERA. But I've said over and over, like, I don't care. He's still Blake Snell, and I expected him every time he went out to potentially dominate for however long he was in the game. And he said, quote, "I'm obviously disappointed this week throwing, even during the bullpen. I was like, man, I feel really good. The ball's coming out good. I made some adjustments, and adjustments I think were really big for me. Overall, I was pretty excited about what I was going to be able to do today," meaning yesterday. So having that was pretty upsetting. So yes, Blake, it's upsetting for us too. So, rest up, heal up. But so they mentioned Sean Jelly, and that Melvin said he's done well in this role, or they were talking about Sean Mania. Whatever it was, it didn't go well, and they recalled Landon Roop, who also I think struggled in this game, and then Mitch White came in the game, and he also struggled. So all of a sudden, it's like the pitching, right? The pitching has kind of been a problem, and when you take Blake Snell out of the equation, even though he has not done well per those numbers I just described, it's still a big deal to me. But, let's just check on Mason Black. I did not I literally did not realize that he had those kinds of numbers. I just want to make sure that the kind of peripherals line up with that. And my goodness, yeah, I mean, Mason Black should probably be called up. And I mean, the point about him not being on the 40 man is legit, but, you might have to DFA someone because you can't just have kind of a black hole in your rotation when you're already relying on a couple of young guys and Keaton Winn and Kyle Harrison. This is the whole reason I was banging the drum saying they need to go sign Blake Snell, was because if you don't have him, suddenly you're relying. We were also saying on Jordan Hicks, who didn't have a lot of experience as a starter, but that has gone really well so far. But all of a sudden, it's like Webb, not Snell, and Hicks, and Harrison, and Winn, and then a question mark. It looks a lot different when you take the reigning Cy Young Award winner out of the equation. So Mason Black, I mean, those numbers are extremely impressive in the PCL. Has kept hitters from hitting home runs, like 153 ERA, 332 fielding independent pitching. I'm looking at Steamer projections, and they've got him at a 3.87 ERA. And then the Bat is another projection system, a 4.03 ERA. A lot of these systems, this is kind of Fangraphs that does this, but they're projecting mostly bullpen work, so that the numbers will get worse if it projects starting pitching, because starting pitching is harder. Like, you have to pitch more innings, and then guys see you more, and then you basically, if you're being projected as a reliever, your numbers are going to get better, and if you're being projected as a starter, they're going to get worse. But anyway, I mean, Mason Black is definitely a guy in the mix here, and so I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, the way Jelly gave up a bunch of runs in his outing, I don't know that they're just going to go with Jelly. I mean, they could do bullpen games. Jelly went. What am I talking about? Jelly didn't even start. It was Ryan Walker. I'm sorry. Jelly was the bulk innings guy. Went 2 2/3, gave up 3 runs. And then Landon Roop, who they just called up too, get 1 1/3, 3 runs. And so, you start to squirm a little bit. Mitch White, new to this pen, 1 inning, 2 runs. And so is the pitching going to sink them? Well, at least sink them while they've got some injuries. Not sink, but is it going to be a continuing issue when Snell and Alex Cobb and Robbie Ray are out? That's my question. And I don't know the answer. But some young guys like Mason Black, and they've got other young starting pitching, it would just be, you need to make 40-man moves, but it may be what they need to do in order to weather the storm here. So it happens. People get hurt, and it's unfortunate, but you do have Logan Webb. And so coming up in just a minute, I want to talk about Logan Webb, who's been on the best stretch of his career, the longest scoreless inning streak of his career. And again, for those of you watching live, maybe you're just tuning in, I am in a closet. It is dark. If you're watching later, I apologize for how weird the lighting and the fact that I'm in a closet looks, but I'll explain that too in just a minute. So all of that next, but first. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Policy Genius. Policy Genius is the smarter way to buy insurance. Their proprietary technology makes it easy to compare personalized quotes and policies from top-rated insurers side by side. Policy Genius's team of licensed experts is here to answer your questions, handle paperwork, and help you make decisions with confidence. They work for you, not the insurance companies. From exploring coverage options to making policy adjustments as your life changes, Policy Genius is your advocate at every step. And Policy Genius is committed to your information remaining secure. Your security is their priority. They use industry-leading security practices to help keep your information safe. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policy Genius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description below to get your free life insurance quote and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. Today's episode is also brought to you in part by Monopoly Go. I've been told that I am someone who has a competitive side. I think that anyone who knows me knows that that's extremely true. So yeah, I do, and we all do to some extent. And my competitive side is a huge fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly, classic Monopoly, where you play on not one but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. The best part is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties, just like in classic Monopoly, but I can also heist their vaults for riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is, and it's got to be me. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends if you're feeling a little more generous on a given moment, and people around the world in timed tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. All right, as promised, we're going to discuss Logan Webb. We switch gears and talk about something that's not so grim and something that's a little more like, wow, Logan Webb is absolutely dialed right now. He's gone 7 innings in each of his last 4 starts, 2 runs, 1 run, no runs, no runs. So Logan Webb is just on a roll, and we'll get into that and how important he is to this team and like what his numbers look like and all that. And then I want to continue to take steps back and look at the team overall and kind of the pitching and just like, okay, and then where's the offense at? They didn't have a great game offensively against the Mets in the finale, but they did win a series. And going into that series, that was what I said needed to happen. Go win a series against a competitive team. You're at home, and they did it. You'd obviously like to sweep. You had a chance. They would have been back to 500 with the sweep, but it didn't happen. But still, the way you have a good season is you just win series, especially at home. And so they were able to do that. And then the Pirates, they'll be off today on Thursday, but the Pirates will come into town, and that's a series you should win as well. And so I'm gonna be firm on that as well. There's no excuses. The last couple of years they've kind of lost too many series that they should win, and it's been their downfall. But this year, I get it. They're still under 500, but there's a million games to go, so we'll see. Anyway, thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow I want to do a mailbag, hopefully not from a closet. Yes, if you're watching on YouTube, that is my location, is in a closet, because there's a lot going on in my life, and not only that, there's a lot going on outside the house that I'm in, which is noisy. And so this closet is the only place where there's any quiet, because I don't want you listening and hearing all the noise that's going on outside. So welcome to my closet. Not even my closet. Welcome to this closet that I find myself in. Anyway, enough of that. Let's talk about Logan Webb, who's just been on a tear. And it's funny because, last season, this season, like he kind of, like he was, this is just a good reminder about spring training, right? Do you remember? He was bad in spring. He had a horrible spring, Logan Webb, horrible spring. And so if I can get through to anybody today, it'll be worth this little soapbox I'm about to get on, that spring training statistics don't matter. Okay. So Logan Webb, I mean, his ERA in spring was like 9. He gave up a run like every inning. He got lit up. But his ERA 6 starts into the major league season, the one that actually matters, is 2.33. And to start the season, his second through 2 starts, his second start in LA, he went 3 2/3, gave up 5 runs. So through 2 starts, he had a 6.52 ERA, right? And so it's like, 2 starts, when I say 2 starts, whatever, 9 2/3 innings is way too small of a sample to make any kind of judgment. Here we are just a few games later. I mean, his next 4 what am I saying? He went 8 innings the other day. I apologize. Again, I'm a little all over the place, literally and figuratively. Um, his last four starts: 7 innings, 7 innings, 7 innings, 8 innings, 2 runs, 1 run, no runs, no runs. And Bob Melvin let him get through the eighth, even though he had trouble. Like, not trouble. He walked a guy with 2 outs in the eighth, and then he gave up a single with 2 outs in the eighth. But it was important that that single that he gave up with 2 outs in the eighth was poorly hit, and it just kind of found a hole. And I think that's like Bob Melvin, quote unquote, reading the game and seeing, Logan Webb wants to get through that eighth inning. I think he wanted to get through nine. Um, and Melvin apparently had told him, if you're under 100 pitches after eight, I'll let you go back out there for the ninth. But he wasn't, because he did walk the guy with 2 outs, and then he gave up the hit, but then he got out of it. And so, the manager showing the trust in the player, like, that's just a topic worth mentioning. And definitely, in my opinion, Kepler would have taken him out maybe after the walk at the very least. Definitely after the single, I feel like. But, Webb got out of it, and he's just been on an absolute tear. And he has a 2.33 ERA, 2.77 fielding independent pitching. Expected ERA is actually 4.25, just to be real with you, which is like 2 runs higher than the actual ERA. But, again, it is a small sample of 38 and 2/3 innings. And we've got years and years now where Logan Webb has just been one of the best pitchers in baseball, basically since 2021. Yeah, I mean, he's got a 3.02 ERA since 2021, a 2.98 fielding independent pitching, 3.04 expected fielding independent pitching. And notice how all three of those numbers are basically the same, right about 3. And so that's just kind of what he is. It seems, is he's a guy who's going to allow about 3 runs per 9 innings, and that's one of the best pitchers in the game. Ground ball rate is off the charts good, 60%. Keeps the ball on the ground, therefore not a lot of damage. Like he doesn't strike a ton of people out, but it's hard to do damage when you're hitting the ball on the ground. And then if you do allow base runners, you're getting double plays and stuff. And so ground balls are good, and he gets a lot of them, and he's one of the best in the game, if not the best in the game, at getting them. And so Giants are very fortunate to have Logan Webb on this team. And when we look at the pitching leaders in 2024, in terms of innings, Logan Webb is number 1. Tyler Glasnow is number 2. That's kind of crazy. He's made the same number of starts as Webb. Glasnow historically known for like never having a healthy season, but we'll see. But Logan Webb is leading the majors in innings after, last year leading the majors in innings. So that's worth pointing out. And the 2.33 ERA among qualified starters is, Jordan Hicks is 7th with 1.61. And Logan Webb, I mean, it's 20th. That just goes to show you that we're still early in the season. There's plenty of guys who are not going to end up with ERAs in the 0s and the 1s and the 2s and all that. So how about the 2.77 fielding independent pitching for Webb, though? That's going to be, that's 14th best. And we're talking in all of Major League Baseball, not just the National League. So wins above replacement, Fangraphs wins above replacement, Logan Webb ranking 11th. So, I mean, just he's pitching like an ace, right? It's obvious. And that's why it's a little bit sad and unfortunate to have your potential other ace in Blake Snell go down, but at least you have Logan Webb. And the question I have is, Logan Webb along with Jordan Hicks, who has shown, I think that alleviates some of the pressure that I was feeling before the season. Like the need to go get a Blake Snell was partially, like I said earlier, because we didn't know exactly what to expect out of Jordan Hicks, the starter. And I still think it's too early. Like, I don't think Jordan Hicks is going to be, he's not going to have an ERA of 1 something like he has now when all is said and done. 1.61. And he's not striking a lot of people out too, but his ground ball rate is off the charts. And Keaton Winn has been really good. Kyle Harrison has the upside through the moon, and so there's a lot of good, but overall it's crazy. Like if you look at the Giants pitching numbers, it's not pretty. And so it's just interesting kind of how that is looking. Like their ERA is 4.74 as a team, which is 27th 27th. There's only 3 teams with a worse ERA as a team than the Giants this season. That's kind of crazy, right? Especially because their defense has been good. So where's all this damage coming from if we've got Webb and Hicks and Winn and then Harrison? It's not like he's been horrible. Snell definitely has like contributed to the negative, but you felt like that was going to change. But now who's going to pitch in his place? So we'll take a step back and kind of look at this again now that there's no Blake Snell in the picture in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you in part by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. I've been playing myself with, always going with Giants players to do well. Maybe it's a little bit, it's definitely homerism on my part, but it's fun. You just pick more or less on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Spring training is in the rearview mirror. Baseball season is in full swing, and don't miss your chance to add your favorite players on the Giants or whoever else. You can pick more or less on some team the Giants are playing in terms of like, oh no, they're not going to hit a home run or whatever. Whether it's strikeouts, runs batted in, first inning runs, take your pick of more or less and add them to your Prize Picks entry today. Get in on the action and win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks. And as you play, the world's best players take the game to a whole new level during basketball's postseason as well. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100, which is what I did. Put in 100 and I got 100 in a match. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB. First deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It is that easy. All right, here we go. We're going to just take a step back. I've been doing this a lot, but like sans Snell, I want to do it again because my question here, if you see it if you're on YouTube, and if you're just joining us, yes, I'm in a closet. It is because crazy life scenario is happening. Plus, it's loud outside, and this is the only quiet place I could find. So apologies for the video quality today, but welcome to this closet. It's not very nice. Anyway, thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow I want to do a mailbag. Don't think I'll be in a closet. Actually, I honestly might, to be honest. But check out Twitter, my Twitter account, for a prompt, and we'll be getting to your questions tomorrow. Also, a reminder that you can catch every pitch of the Giants' hometown broadcast with SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search the word Giants. And also a reminder that we got Giants postcast for you with Eric Engel right after every game. Go on the Locked On Sports Bay Area YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, Locked On Sports Bay Area on YouTube. Check it out now. Subscribe now. Bell notification. Eric Engel right after every game breaking down the Giants. And you can be there and join the conversation. Discuss what amongst the group, and maybe he reads off the chat as well. And then that episode shows up on the Locked On Giants podcast feed. And so you've probably noticed that by now. If you haven't, I'm just letting you know. So anyway, just to throw all that out there again. But the Giants pitching, as I said, like, it's just kind of wild to me that they're 27th. The Astros, it's also wild that they're 28th. That stands out. The Houston Astros are generally thought to be a good team, but they've had a horrible start. And then the other 2 teams worse than the Giants in terms of allowing runs are the White Sox and the Rockies, the White Sox have just been horrible. Their record is like 3-20, and the Astros have a horrible record. The Rockies have a really bad record. So it's kind of amazing and, fortunate, it feels like, for the Giants to be 2 games under 500. What are they, 12-14? They had a chance to get to 500 with a win yesterday. Couldn't do it. But yeah, the Giants are 12-14. Their run differential suggests maybe they should be 11-15. So I'm glad they're outperforming that by 1 win. And you're not going to win though if you're giving up that many runs, especially when you pitch in a pitcher-friendly park. And so when we look at the individual players and we sort by ERA, going to the bottom, Luke Jackson has pitched 1 inning, ERA of 27. Okay, 1 inning, and he got hurt. Dalton Jeffries had that horrible start in San Diego. Mitch White, in his 1 inning with the Giants, has an ERA of 18. Tyler Fitzgerald has pitched 2 innings as a position player, has ERA 13 and a half. I mean, so like we kind of write those ones off. And then Blake Snell, 11 and 2/3 innings, ERA is 11 and a half. Kaiwei Tang no longer on the roster. Nick Avila no longer on the roster, 7.04 ERA. Landon Roop back on the roster, 6.17 ERA. And so that's maybe you start to have some concerns about guys like Roop and about like Mitch White, who's really struggled with the Blue Jays in the last few years, and they did trade for him for just cash. But so, it's not like a big risk trade, but at the same time, Sean Jelly, 5.79. We're talking small samples here, but it's adding up. Eric Miller, this is the one where I don't worry. His ERA is 5.25, but all the peripheral numbers suggest like mid twos. And I see that with my eyes. Like he's throwing 100 from the left side with a changeup and a slurvy kind of sharp breaking ball. Kyle Harrison, ERA is 5 in 27 innings, so that, you'd like that to not be so high. And then other than that, they've had a lot of good performances like Keaton Winn, Camilo Doval, Tyler Rogers, Ryan Walker, Taylor Rogers, Logan Webb, and Jordan Hicks. They've all been really good. And so it's kind of like this mix of 7 pitchers have been really good. And then Kyle Harrison, I would consider like a 5 ERA to not be dreadful. And also Eric Miller, the peripheral numbers, like I expect him when he goes out there to perform well. I mean, the numbers are really good. Like if you look at strikeout rate and stuff like that, but it's like the Jelly, Roop, Avila, Tang, White. I guess Luke Jackson I expect to be much better as he pitches more than 1 inning. He's got two appearances. First appearance he didn't get any outs, so technically just 1 inning pitched. But yeah, just looking at Eric Miller's numbers, I expect him to improve, like be one of those guys who whittles down the ERA as time goes on. He's got a really, really low strand rate of only 23%. That might be the lowest in baseball, honestly. If I were to sort, if it was worth my time to like sort, that means basically 80% of the runners he's allowed on base have come around to score, which is just crazy high and not sustainable and won't last. When all is said and done, it'll be like reversed, more like he'll strand 80% of the runners that he allows on base. So I do have some concerns, but I think that they have the personnel in the minors. Like when you look at a Mason Black, tying this back into what we discussed at the beginning, if you were to add a Mason Black, it takes somebody else off the roster, of course, and maybe that person is, whether it's White is out of options, so it would probably be Roop or Jelly, either of whom could be optioned. And with Doval and Rogers and Jackson and Walker, and Miller, like they've got the makings here of a strong pitching staff, which is just so it's kind of perplexing a little bit that the ERA is what it is. And then just to kind of wrap it up, checking in on the position players, they continue to be league average offensively. They're like smack dab league average 100 weighted runs created plus, which is exactly league average. They're hitting 247, 315 on base, 384 slugging. It's not great. It's not bad. It is literally average. It is park adjusted. So it might look a little worse than league average, but it's crediting them for playing in a tough place to hit, essentially. Strikeout rate is, remember it was high last year, like all of last year, and especially in the beginning of the year. Well, it's 12th lowest this year at 21.7%. So they've got that going for them. Their power number, isolated power, is 22nd. So they're not hitting for a lot of power. So that's a bit of an issue, I suppose. And however, defensively, according to this DEF number on Fangraphs, which is defensive runs above average, it's not defensive WAR like a lot of people claim because it's right next to WAR on Fangraphs. They're third. And so defense has been a strength, like with just like as expected with Matt Chapman and Nick Ahmed on the left side. Tyro Estrada like was fantastic last year by outs above average, and I've been impressed with him again this year. Patrick Bailey is one of the best, if not the best, like defensive catchers in baseball, one of the best. And Jung-Hoo Lee, I've been impressed with defensively. Mike Yastrzemski, like, where's the defensive weakness? I guess you could say Conforto is not the best outfielder, but it's a good defense. And so the position player group, I think, is a good group. And the pitching group, I think, is good too, but the results overall haven't been great. And when you look at the just overall numbers, but then you look at individual performers and there's like so many good ones. So it's kind of odd. I guess the bad performances have been really bad. And so that's just something I expect to get better. But I think they'll have to switch up the personnel a little bit while Blake Snell is injured. So anyway, that is all the time we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. I apologize I wasn't able to record yesterday. Like I said, you got some personal stuff going on, and you can kind of see the ramifications of it here as I record from this closet. Thank you for bearing with me if you're watching on YouTube and you're like, what the heck is going on here? But yeah, once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter or X at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It really does help me out a lot. Also hitting that thumbs up button, commenting on YouTube, that helps as well. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Look out on Twitter tonight for the prompt, and we'll be getting to you with a mailbag episode tomorrow and welcoming, previewing the Pirates coming into town. So anyway, thanks again for listening today. You are now Locked On Giants.